Greetings and welcome to Growth Hacking Secrets. I'm your host, Muhammad Siddique from Atlanta, Georgia, and the co author of New Success Secrets available on Amazon. On this episode, we have a special guest, Dr. PeteAndersen. Dr. Andersen is an author of the three secret skills of top performers. Please join me to give a warm welcome to our guest, Dr. PeteAndersen. Doctor, welcome.
Yes, how are you?
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much. Let me start with this. Where were you? What happened? Who were you surrounded with that inspired you to write these books?
Well, it started, I want to say back in high school. I was a runt and I was a swimmer, and coach instilled a work ethic in us that, if you're a little smaller, you're not as talented, you have to outwork your competitor. And that was a message that stayed with me all my life. And I found that when you look at top performers, they all have a great work ethic. And but then I was accused of being an idiot for going to this great swimming school in Indiana where Mark Spitz swam. Why would I want to be this little fish in this big pond? I was nuts, but I wanted to be a swimming coach because I admired my coaches so well, and the people that were in our aquatics program at Evanston High School. It's Evanston is the first suburb north of Chicago. It's where Northwestern University is. And boy, there was times there where, not having grown up very fast, I didn't get my growth spurt until I was a freshman in college, that the coach instilled this desire to be a top performer. And I was so inspired by that. But there were times when we set up in the auditorium, the natatorium, we could see 1,200 people. They held state meets. It was a big swimming pool, big swimming venue. And back in the late 50s, early 60s, high schools didn't have this kind of a swimming setup, an aquatic setup. Well, I remember sitting up there waiting for a ride from Archie to give a ride home because we'd had public transportation. The bus would take me by my house. And I would be up there crying my eyes out because I wanted to be a top performer so bad. Well, then I was accused by all my peer buddies, and why would you want to go to Indiana? Well, ultimately, make a long story short, I broke the freshman breaststroke swimming records that were held 2 years earlier by now the world record holder in the 200-meter breaststroke, Chet Jastrzemski. I didn't know that at the time, but I went on to become a 5-time All-American because I got my growth spurt. I grew 5.5 inches and 32 pounds in 10 months, took third in the country, and I never looked back. But that's what inspired me. And then all my life, I've been around top performers. And I kind of became curious because I'm also a fan of Bartlett's familiar quotations, like the old quotations, that they're there that kind of guide your life. A lot of young people don't know what they are. We older folks need to tell them what they are and why they're there, because they guide your life, and it's part of your philosophy and how you want to live your life. And so that said, then I went on to get a PhD and became a school superintendent, and again was around teachers and so forth that saw I could not understand why a coach of a class. Well, let's take an athletic team coach. They're teaching class like biology or English or something. And next door to them would be another teacher that's not involved in any extracurricular activities at all. In fact, a lot of times I noticed that they would have their jackets on before the bus fumes got out of the parking lot. They weren't interested in the kids so much. But then this coach, boy, I really care about my kids. And they were inspiring the kids. They did as well in the classroom as they did on the athletic field. And that the teacher next door to them, which you'd think there'd be some collegiality, there was none of that. Their kids were not inspired to learn, and they didn't do as well academically. So that's kind of where it started back in high school and then through college. And that's what inspired me to do what I do today.
Based on your experience, what are the top three reasons why do people fail?
Well, one of the reasons I think it's partly, I would say, personality. A real top performer is realistic. They know what their body can do and what it can't do. In other words, if you're only 5'6", you're not going to be playing center in the NBA in basketball, in professional leagues. You have to be aware of who you are. And I think sometimes people fail to see exactly what all their skills and abilities are. I do have a 6-point survey that I have in my book, where in fact I just had a had a conversation with my grandkids. We have our Christmas holiday. We celebrated it, this last Saturday, and I said, it's going to take you 3 or 4 days to complete this survey. It's very finite. But you might find, instead of rating yourself from a 0 to 5, that maybe you're only a 2 in some area, that maybe your mom sees you differently, or your friends see you differently. They might rate you a 4. And when you see that, it builds your confidence. But again, I think some of the reasons, the primary reason why people fail is because they think they know it all. I defined a top performer as someone who is a lifelong learner. I'm still learning. Every day. I learn something new. And but I think there's so many people that they're closed-minded. They only know one thing, and they can't think about doing anything else. I mean, think of an older person that never even wanted to get to a computer and learn how to do internet or email. I have friends like that, and I think, how can you live in this 21st century and not be able to know communication skills through whatever means? I wish when I was a young dad that I had the ability to do FaceTime with my kids, and now I'm doing it with my grandkids because they're off in college and stuff. And but again, I'd say the primary reasons are people are just they act like they know it all, and they don't, and they're not realistic. And the other reason, they don't have a work ethic. They just don't have a work ethic. They don't want to work. They want everything given to them. I've taught swimming lessons to kids from all over the world that live here now, and I've talked to their parents and grandparents, and to the family from all countries. Any country that's becoming more affluent today, they don't value anything they get for free. It's a behavioral 101 concept, and a lot of people don't get it. And today, I blame a lot of parents for giving everything to their kids, and they don't even have to pick up the dog poop, or empty the dishwasher or take out the garbage. Parents just don't expect anything from them. I have 6 children. They all have college degrees because it was the expectation you were going to go to a higher form of learning. You don't know it all. But again, if you screw up high school, you're 18. I don't owe you anything. I don't owe you a dime. So it's on you. So I'd say one of the key lessons that we taught our children was to be personally accountable for their behavior and their actions and their results that they get from that. But at the same time, when they set a goal, I just had that conversation with my grandkids. When you set a goal and you do the work, I asked them a question: who gets all the reward? And they had to think about it for a second. And I thought, what? You had the goal, you did the work, you get all the reward. You aware of that? And well, now they do, because I hammered them on that. But again, that's some of the reasons where some people, they're successful, or they take things for granted. I can do it. Why can't you do it? But you shouldn't do that. You're always growing and growing and helping other people do what you do very well. That'd be my answer.
What is your greatest failure story? What did you learn and how did you recover from it?
Oh boy, that's a good question. Because I've had a lot of failures. I'm certainly not perfect. I haven't learned to walk on water yet. But I'd say one of my greatest failures was, I'd say it's a combination of failures. I have 2 ex-wives. And then through prayer, I found my 3rd wife 18 days later after I had a heartfelt prayer. And I was married 11 years the first time and a little short of 2 years the second time. But I had 4 children, four boys, the first marriage, including triplets, who are now going to be 50 years old this January 20th. And I love my kids. I'm a family man. I love my kids and so forth. It just wasn't working after 11 years. And I won't go into all the reasons, because it's always a 2-part process. It's not just all or one. And so I got married too soon, I think, the second time. And that lasted for 2 years. But I had another son, a fifth son, who's now up here or out here in San Diego with his 4 children and 2 dogs and a wife. And they just came out here in their RV. They're homeschooling their children. And we just had an evening with them last night because one of their children turned 9 years old yesterday. And I love those kids. I mean, I love all my grandkids. And I would say, though, that that's probably my biggest failure. I didn't mean to mess up 2 people's lives by forcing marriage upon them, if you will. But I've been happily married now for 37 years to my wife now, and she's a saint. And I mean, think about it. For the ladies that are out there, who would even think about marrying or dating a guy that had 2 ex-wives and 5 boys, including triplets? I mean, come on. I mean, it's just not happening. But she did, and I'm forever indebted to her. And we have a daughter now through this marriage, and she's just had her baby, so that's my 15th grandchild. And but we're really a tight-knit family. We really love each other. But I've got cousins that don't talk to each other, and it's sad. I think that people go through life and they have this, maddening view of them, and set it aside. I mean, come on. We don't get out of life alive. We all die. I mean, it's going to happen. So why be all upset? I mean, it's the same thing with politics and people and countries. I love people from all these different countries that I've taught swimming to. I just sometimes think we need to get the political leaders out of the way and let the people enjoy communicating with each other instead of trying to limit that. But I'll get off my soapbox on that political point right now.
So, what are your top 3 success secrets that others can model from?
Well, that's another good question. Boy, you've got some really good questions here. I would say I'd say number one is well, actually there's 2 or 3. You're right. I've got some good questions. What I've seen is that a lot of people have never worked at developing a sound philosophy of how they want to live. I mean, they're the idealists, the ideologies where they want to do it, but there's no practicality, there's no pragmatism to that. And so you're always looking for the Holy Grail or something greater that that can guide your life and all that. And yet, if you don't have a good philosophy, you don't care about people, you don't care about yourself. And the next one I would say is a work ethic. That's why I had in my book, I said, you set the goal, you do the work, but then you get all the reward. You've got to connect reward with reinforcement. Why would you continue to do work if it wasn't rewarding? But there's so many people that are in jobs that just go to work and I come home and they hate their job, they hate their boss. And so that was another reason I thought. But so again, philosophy, and then I would also say a work ethic, and then I would say perseverance. There's so many people today that if you don't get it right away, especially the young person, if you're not successful right away, I quit. I'm not going to do it anymore. Well, as I told you in the earlier part of our interview here, I didn't get a growth spurt until after my senior year in high school. I grew 5.5 inches and gained 32 pounds my freshman year in 10 months of my first year in college. Well, I went from not even being anybody to being a 5-time All-American. So you don't know how you're going to turn out. When I did talks to kids when I was a school principal before I became a superintendent, I had a rhetorical question. How many of you thought Michael Jordan, the great basketball star, was going to be the Michael Jordan NBA star when he was in high school? Never a hand goes up. I said, what about Henry Ford? He created this great assembly line, millions of dollars creating this Model T Ford, through an assembly line. That's how it started with him, the assembly lines and producing mass products and things. Or what about Martin Luther King? He became this evangelist, this orator, and never a hand goes up. So how do you know how you will turn out at an early age? So why give up on something? Why give up on your dream just because you fail a couple of times? The failure is teaches you what not to do again. It's like touching the cattle fence. I don't want to touch that cattle fence again. Well, okay. This kind of alludes into one of my things that I have in the book, that I have four actually 4 points that help you to guide you make better decisions. And I put them in a podcast of my own, not a podcast, excuse me, but a blog of my own. And two are psychological principles. And the first one is, you're going to go for pleasure. You're going to avoid pain. So if it looks like it's just all pleasure, just to avoid pain, be aware of that when you're making a decision. I won't go into the other three right now because I want to continue with your line of questioning. But I would say those are my top three success secrets: philosophy, work ethic, and what did I say the third one? Oh yeah, and what did I say the third one was, Muhammad?
Keep going. Never give up too early.
Yeah, never give up. Yeah, perseverance. Yeah, I had to think about that again because I kind of follow that. I've always had a philosophy that, so I don't get too big ahead, because remember the old phrase I said, there's an old phrase that the bigger a man's head gets, the easier it is to fill his shoes. So I've always considered myself to be an average guy, but I always try to do a better than average job. And I think it's a great philosophy to have, but at least that's what I do. That's what guides me.
What motivates you within?
Well, I think there's this natural innate drive it's in animals, and I think we're a human animal. It's within all of us, is that you want to improve. I think that's a natural drive that you have. And that centers around essentially one basic element, and that's quality of life. The quality of life for you or I is different than, well, you could say a millionaire, but there's some very unhappy millionaires. Money doesn't buy happiness. And then you could be living out of a shopping cart. But I've seen some really happy people living on the street. They don't have any worries. Well, they worry about staying alive, I guess, but I don't know. I can't think like that. But it's quality of life. And quality of life centers around, in terms of what motivates me and with other people, I found in my book, is centered around two major concepts: satisfaction of your personal needs and values. But what I'm finding today is a lot of parents, as leaders of their family, they're not teaching good values in the home. Or maybe they're a single parent mom. They don't have time to teach all these values. They try to model them, but it's awfully tough because you might be working two jobs. But if we would have more people learn values in terms of respecting other people's property, you wouldn't have these smash and grabs going on today, mostly by younger people. You don't see old guys in there running in and out of stuff. So now there are a lot of young people who don't know a need from a want. When I was a school superintendent, I'd ask kids this: oh, they want a Lamborghini. You don't need a Lamborghini. You need a house over your, roof over your head. You need to get out of the rain and the cold. That's a need. It goes back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs: food, clothing, shelter. I mean, those are the basic needs. And of course, there's a sense of belonging eventually when you get to the top of the pyramid. So that's in my book. And to get people to understand, especially young people, understand the difference between a need and a want. You may want a lot of things, but you may not need those things. And that's not going to motivate you as much as when you need something, as opposed to, well, I just want it. Your brain says, well, we're not serious. So anyway, all right.
What is your company's motto?
Boy, that's another. I love these questions of yours. Wow, I really do. I would say the basic model for me is, I want to shorten people's learning curve. So I have a short one. It's improve performance in less time. And then I apply what I have in my 3 secret skills in my book. I apply those to what I call the big 4. Once you learn the 3 secret skills, it's like riding a bicycle. You don't forget how to do that. Well, then you apply them to a job. And I explain what those are. People know what that is. You're in a cubicle, you're working on a job, you're getting paid for it, working for somebody else. Then you've got tasks like doing your laundry. Well, that's not fun. You've got to buy the groceries. You got to bring them home, carry them upstairs, and put them away. And then you've got to cook. You got to clean up your dishes afterwards so that your kitchen's not a mess. And then you've got skills. I happen to be an author, a speaker at my own publishing company, and I've got world records in master swimming in my age group. But then you have relationships, not just with mom and dad or even your grandparents if they're still living. And again, no matter what religion you are, I believe there's a higher power in your life. There's a relationship there too. So that would be why the motto is what it is: improve performance in less time. People want to shorten their learning curve. They want to continue to learn and then get some benefit from that.
Who is your ideal client?
Well, right now, my niche is I want to reach out to parents of upper class high school students. I want to reach out to the ones who are juniors and seniors. And I have a 7-module course that I'm creating on leadership based on the content of my book. And because right now they have this huge decision to make. Am I going to spend $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 on just the first year of college education with my child, my student? And when that happens, you've got a lot of money to expend. And how do you do it? Do you mortgage your house, I guess, or you get a home equity loan? But you're putting a lot of money and faith in that your child is really going to be serious about going to school and making a better life for themselves. But there's a way to do that, and you can determine that. If your child is just gimme, 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 and doesn't want to share anything with the family, I would be last to invest any kind of money on my kid in that with that attitude. Now, there's always a community college, there's military, there's all kinds of ways to finance your way to go through school. There are trade schools where you can do apprenticeships. There are some companies that will actually pay you to go to school. So there's all kinds of ways to get a higher education. But to go spend 20, 30, 40 grand on a college education the first year, and your child doesn't have a work ethic, isn't willing to be a janitor, or wash windows or deliver pizzas. All my kids were willing to do that because they valued an education. And so I would say my ideal client right now, it's going to be parents of upper class high school students. But actually, it's anybody who's a leader who wants to improve their performance in less time and learn how to manage the people that they lead. As an offshoot to that, I'm trying to get more leaders. I'm transforming leaders to use more what I call intrinsic motives based on the personal needs and values of the people that are doing the work. If you don't do that, you don't really care about your employee. And guess what? Your employee's not going to care about you either. And they're going to care whether the company does well or not. Even if there's stock options, they don't care. I hate my boss. When I started doing the research for my book, I found out that the number one reason why people leave their job, it's not for more money. It's more of a lateral move. They just hate their boss. Man or woman, they just hate their boss. They're a jerk. They treat them like junk, and they don't like them. And so they don't care about the company because the company doesn't care about them. You're just a piece of meat to them. So, I mean, but those companies who really care about their employees, boy, those employees are really loyal to the company and loyal to their boss. And it's a family thing.
How do you find your ideal client?
Well, having been a school superintendent, my intention is to go to the school superintendents that are my friends that know me and offer a free webinar for their upper class high school students and their parents. And once they learn that, they will learn the 3 secret skills that are in the book of leadership here. And they'll start to demonstrate those skills to their parents. And so what I've done is instead of buying the book, I guess you can go through my leadership program, but I intend to, I'm going to cause it, well, how can I say this? I'm going to charge $297. But I'm thinking of it like a scales. Would you rather spend 20, 30 grand and just blow it on your kid? Or would you rather spend $297 now to determine whether your kid is mature and ready and serious enough for a college education? I call it an assurance policy. I call it an assurance policy. I'm on the phone, Marcy, please. No. Sorry. And I call that an assurance policy. And so, and I don't know why parents wouldn't want to do that. But I mean, I think I'd rather spend $297 now to find out if my child is ready and if they've studied and they're mature enough to handle it. Because see, one of the things that I told my kids, you've got 8 semesters. That's it. If you're doing a 9th semester, there's a problem. You can't be signing up for a college course that's only offered the fall of your senior year, and then you don't sign up for that. That means you have to go the next year to get that one class done to complete your degree. You have to be your own counselor. See, and again, it goes back to what I said earlier. One of the number one thing we taught our children is to be personally accountable for their behavior and their actions and their results. Now, if the results are good, they get all the credit because they did the work. But again, there are so many parents that don't see it that way. And I try to, well, teach them how to be a good leader in that regard.
How do you deliver a five-star client experience?
Well, I think it's good content. I think of the philosophy of the Pied Piper. The Pied Piper had, just tooted a little horn and people followed him. Well, it's the same thing when you talk to your children. If they don't listen to you, you're not giving them the right messages. But on the other hand, if when you lead somebody and you have a good client experience, it's because you've given them good content that makes sense. It's logical. It fits in. It's like a puzzle. The pieces interlock and they fit into place. And if you don't do that, nobody's going to follow you. The other part of that experience is you've got to communicate. You've got to have a caring influence with the person on the other side. You have to talk to them as if they're the only person in the room. And I do that. I have friends all over this country. And I have people that I've taught to swim that are lifelong friends. We still communicate to this day. I mean, I taught these people 10 years ago, and we still are friends. I take time to do that. So I think anybody that becomes a client of mine, you're part of my family. And I've told people that. I tell them right in the beginning, you buy anything from me, whether it's my swim book, Teach Yourself to Swim, or it's my 7-module course or my book, The 3 Secret Skills of Top Performers. You're in my family and you'll always have access to me, always. And I will take the time, as long as I'm alive, to get back to you and answer your questions. So that's what I'd say is my 5-star client experience, is that communication and that caring communication.
How do you handle rejections?
Oh boy, again, not as well as some, because I don't like to lose. I'm a competitor. But I try to learn from what the rejection is, what they're telling me. And it tells me that I didn't fulfill some need that they wanted from me. And so, yes, I'm upset by it. Anybody would be right at the beginning. But then I go into some of the reasons and I kind of figure out what was it that caused them to have that rejection, that they didn't like me. And I tell you, from that experience now, more than lately here in the last 5 to 10 years, I would see somebody swimming in the pool or a parent teaching their kid to swim. And because I swim laps, because I'm a world record holder, I've got to work out, right? Keep my health going. And I would tell them what they're doing wrong. Well, you shouldn't do that. This is not, you don't do that. That's not right. And right away, boy, the blinders come up. They don't want to hear anything from me. And I learned very quickly, it's like Dale Carnegie, the How to Win Friends and Influence People. The first thing you always have to do in any communication is you've got to find something to praise the person you're talking to or speaking with. And that gets them to open up their mind to you and say, by the way, have you ever tried to do this? My wife is excellent at this. She just walked by. She's working from home. Apologize. But it's one of those things that I've learned to do, and boy, it works. It really works. People open up their minds and hey, that guy cares about me too. You know what, I'm doing this right, see? And you praise what they do right. And then, oh, by the way, this might help you too to do this. But again, handling rejection, it's really tough, but you can't be sullen about it. You have to use it as a learning experience.
How do you handle an angry client?
Well, this goes back to what my coach said. I hope I'm not going to offend your audience here, but it's like diarrhea of the mouth. You just got to let it get out. Just don't try to get back at them. In the conversation when they're angry with you, just listen. Be a good listener. And it's now back even when I was a sales trainer, for this medical company when I first got out of education for a while. There's these Board and Bussey films, and they call it like let the hot air out of the balloon. Let them get it out and let the hot air of the balloon. Then the balloon kind of collapses, and then they're able to listen to you. But if they're in this rage, the brain is shut down. They're not going to listen to anything you say. You can argue back with them, but it's not going to make any difference. So let it quiet down, and then, and I've told parents the same thing. If you're upset with your child, or your child's upset for anything, get them to calm down. Even when you're training a dog, you can't train the dog if the dog's in this high anxiety state. You've got to let the dog calm down and let the person calm down. So that's what I do. I let the angry person get it out, get it over with. And then I said, well, how can I help you? How can I help you? That means I care about you. What can I do differently?
What do you want to do when you grow up?
Well, I'm already 78 years old, so I'm kind of grown up already. But I'm kind of past the point where I need to set a world record in swimming anymore for my age group. What I really want to do now is I want to give back as my legacy. I've got 15 grandkids now after my 6 kids, and my legacy is to teach them now how to have a philosophy and a work ethic and that kind of thing, and then go on to become successful people in their own right, become top performers. And but I really care about people, and I just like helping people. And the more I help people, the more people I help, the better I feel inside. And so I guess I would like to have a larger group of people that I've helped over the years. That would make my life meaningful and relevant.
What is the advice you will give to a younger yourself?
Oh boy, pay attention to your parents. They have the experience. A lot of times young people think, well, you're an old person. What do I learn from you? Especially grandparents. And it's like the Native American Indian, the young braves went out and they gathered the meat and stuff. And then the mothers and the squaws, they kept the kids in line. But then it was the older ones who aren't on the hunt anymore. They would advise on the philosophy and the ways of the tribe. And I think in our disjointed society today, we've got people who don't seem to have that same philosophy. I've kept it alive. My mother taught us all for one, one for all. And I would say to kids, pay attention. Get your antenna up. Pay attention. I've got grandkids that go outside and they're on their iPads and their phones. They don't even know the sun is shining on them. There's no awareness there. And I mean, that's part of the 3 secret skills. You've got to increase your awareness. You've got to enhance self-evaluation. And then you've got to connect reward with reinforcement. So by teaching yourself these things early, that's what I would do. Teach yourself to do these 3 secret skills early, and you'll find yourself being a top performer more often than not.
How can we support you?
Well, this is my book, The 3 Secret Skills of TopPerformers.com. It's on Amazon, and my website is the same. It's HTTPS, and then it's the : / same thing, The 3 Secret Skills of TopPerformers.com. You can buy it on my website. I haven't completed my 7-module leadership training course just yet, but I intend to have that done here in another month or so. And I think that's really valuable, especially for parents that are looking to decide whether or not I really want to spend 20, 30, 40K on my student. Even though they love their student, I think it's wise to put the ball back in the student's court. Are you ready? Are you sincere? Do you care enough to want to do a good job? But if they don't have the work ethic, if they don't do their homework, no, don't do it. You're throwing your money away.
We are about to wrap up. I'd like to have a few words about your today's guest experience on the show. Here is my question. What do you say about your today's guest experience on the show?
Oh, it's extremely valuable, Muhammad. I love conversations with people. Sometimes I talk too much, you know, myself, but it's only because having been an educator, I love expounding on what I can teach other people about quality of life and the motivations of what drive people to do what they do. And by doing that, you become more focused and clear about your life and where you want to go. And especially with young people today, we need to do more of that. I think parents need to be better leaders. Instead of just giving your child whatever you had at age 12, at least have some qualification in there. There has to be some accountability. You know, it's a quid pro quo. I do this for you, but if you don't even want to pick up the dog poop or take out the garbage, why am I taking you to the batting cages? Why am I doing all these other things for you when you don't seem to be part of the family? But then again, hug your kids. I try to hug my wife twice a day, because if you're hugging a telephone pole and you're not getting a reaction back, you've got a problem. You know, but when you hug your kid, I mean, I just had these 4 grandkids yesterday. I hugged them all before I left. We hugged them when we got there. We hugged them when we left. I love you.
What would you say is the final word?
I would say the final word is try to be a better person with your family and your relatives. I mean, hug your parents, hug your mom and dad. I mean, hug your spouses and your kids. Hug them every day. And I'll tell you, the love comes out and you communicate without having to say a word. But it doesn't hurt to say I love you either. I mean, it's a very simple thing to say. But you have to say it with meaning. If you don't mean it, I just love you. No, I mean it with, and make it meaningful and relevant.
Thank you so much, Dr. Andersen, for sharing your wisdom with us today on the behalf of Growth Hacking Secrets community and our entire team. We really appreciate you. This is Muhammad Siddique signing off from Atlanta, Georgia. Until the next episode, all good wishes.
Very good.